Good morning. Happy Saturday morning, Sheet Talkers. How is everybody? Echo, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to talk about this guy.
I know, right? So, guys, I missed everyone last week, but we're back. We're ready. Let's pray for no technical difficulties. This morning, I am talking sheet with my sweet friend Echo. Echo, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and when and where and why you became a crime junkie.
Well, I'm trying to think. I became a crime junkie, I guess. I used to go to my aunt sometimes in the summers, and she had like a bunch of true crime books. And she might not even know this, that I would like sneak and read these like true crime books. And I can't remember, it was like sometime maybe in the 90s. Do you remember that guy that used to like ride on um, it was like he used to ride on the trains and he was like robbing people and I think maybe raping people or something like, and he was like on the trains, and she used to live by a train. And it
Oh,
freaked me
really?
out whenever. Yeah, I have to look up what guy that was, but I just remember that when I was younger. But I've
That's
always
so
loved
funny.
true crime.
That's so funny. So your aunt, do you think she's still a true crime junkie? Is she?
Yes.
Yes, she is.
Yes, I think
Hey, I need to
so.
have her on the show, man. If she had books back in the day, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's how I'll have to like ask her what the first book I read, but she probably didn't even know that she just had this whole series of books, and I would just like take out of her
That is
library.
that is so awesome. I love it. Yeah, so I think I've told you, I've shared with you, mine was Unsolved Mysteries, Rescue 911, what is it called? Um, oh my gosh, what is it? America's Most Wanted. All of that stuff was just like fascinating to me. And I'm so glad my parents like never shielded me from any of that. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Jamie. Thank you for hopping in here and joining us. So before I forget, a couple of things. Thank you everybody that shares memes in their videos and GIFs that are anything true crime related. I try to share as many of those on my Facebook page. So y'all go over there and hit a like on that. My most recent one was from Dr. Ben. It was a SNL skit, and y'all need to watch it. It is hilarious. And it was really good. I was showing that to Eric this morning. So Jamie says his was Reno 911. You know what? I've never even seen that. So I have no idea what that even means, Jamie. Of course, I know you're shocked. So anyway, as always, if you don't catch us live, hit us on the replay and make sure to leave comments so I can know that you guys have watched. And before we begin, guys, remember, viewer listener discretion is advised. We don't go into all the gory details, but we do share some graphic information, and it might not be good for the little's ears. And heart it, guys, heart my and share so that we can reach more people. Anyway, Echo, are you ready for this train wreck of a show?
Oh man, there's so much to talk about with him. I'm like, where do we even start?
I know. Okay, so good. I'm glad you asked, where do we start? Because let's start from the beginning. Let's start from his childhood. Who is Richard Ramirez? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and you can catch this episode that we're going to talk about on Netflix, and whatchamacallit, and I listened to two podcasts, and of course I did watch I think it's a 4-part series, right, Echo?
Yeah, it's
On
for
Netflix. Yeah, it's a 4-part series on Netflix. And then there was another one. So back in the summer when I was in Montana, I get to the hotel rooms and I'm like instantly looking for crime crap. And so his episode, Richard Ramirez episode, happened to be on. So I've been waiting a really long time to talk about this guy. But so collectively, with all of these things that I listened to and watched, this is where I got a lot of information, because not everything shows the same things. So anyway, so I'm going to kind of fill in some gaps there. Let's see. So, little history on Richard Ramirez. He was born February the 28th of 1960, and he was born to Julian and Mercedes Ramirez. His dad was born in Mexico, and his mom was born in Colorado. And so, when his parents got married, they were 19 years old. and Richard was the youngest of 5 children. Julian lived in Juarez, while Mercedes lived in El Paso because Julian wasn't a citizen. And eventually he did become a citizen, and they moved together. So a little bit of back history as far as his mom. And this is kind of what they're trying to establish as far as Richard Ramirez's mental state. She worked at a boot factory while she was pregnant with Richard. And so they said that the chemicals that she messed with actually almost caused a miscarriage for Mercedes while she was pregnant with Richard. And at 2 years old, so obviously she carries him to full term, but at 2 years old, a dresser falls on his head and he suffers a concussion and 37 stitches. And then at 5 years old, he was hit with a swing and he was knocked unconscious. Okay. So this is all, and you guys have seen, like, and we've talked about all the head traumas that some of these serial killers have experienced. Good morning, Renee. Thank you for hopping on. And so this is all his little developing brain. So if we look back at some of the serial killers that I can think of off the top of my head, Henry Lee Lucas suffered severe head trauma, and Ed Gein, aka Leatherface, he also suffered severe traumatic and brain injuries. And so does that mean that every head trauma you're going to end up a serial killer? No, it does not mean that, but it is a common denominator. And another thing too, it is a possibility that he had concussions when he played football. So his very first introduction to life, of course, he's got all these head injuries, but at the age of 6, Richard witnessed his father beating his oldest brother. And by 5th grade, Richard would be diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, and the doctor said he would have a potential to grow out of it. So
And
that's a
something
lot of shit.
I mean, that's a lot just of like natural things and accidents that happened. But then also, yeah, his dad was very prone to like fits of rage too. And
Yes.
so I think he witnessed that and then was also a victim to some of that. So it
Right.
was like a lot of compounding factors.
I mean, and that's the thing too. Good morning, Joanne. You just see all of these things that are already happening in his life. And, you know, you can't help but think like, okay, you know, this is one of those where these are all things that are going into a pot to make Richard Ramirez. So there's a couple of variations that I did with everything that I watched and listened to, but there was one that said that he hung out at cemeteries to hide from his dad. But then I also heard another one that said that his dad handcuffed him
Yeah,
to
I
like,
read that too, like
did you
that he
read that
tied him
too?
to a cross at the cemetery, like to kind
Yeah.
of torture him. So I didn't know which was like who said what or which one, but apparently he spent time at cemeteries, whether it was to escape it or as part of torture.
Right. So there's a couple of variations on that. And so yeah, so just kind of you guys draw your own conclusions, but I wanted to share both of those with you because we're not really sure if it is punishment or if it was a choice. But at also he's 10 years old when all this is happening, and he's already smoking weed at this point. And like Echo mentioned, dad has a bunch of bad anger issues. Good morning, Priscilla. Have a great day at work. And what was Jamie's comment? Not all head trauma recipients are killers, but are all killers head trauma recipients? $1 million question. So anyway, let's keep adding to Richard Ramirez. About
Yeah,
7th
there's more.
grade, yeah, it's not getting any better. At 7th grade, he starts sniffing glue. And about this time, his cousin Miguel comes home from Vietnam. And they spent time together, and Miguel would show him disturbing photos of Vietnamese women that he had raped, tortured, and murdered. Okay. And Richard didn't tell anybody, but he did become aroused by these photos. And Miguel also taught him war tactics about killing people and staying stealth. So here's a picture of young Richard. And all of these things are all going into this little brain here. And these are all your formative years when you're thinking with your, man, if Jamie was on here, he could help me with that word, the amygdala, I believe. But so yes, so Renee says, I want to go to that cemetery. There's some paranormal activity at the one he was hanging out at. Oh, really, Renee? That's interesting. Interesting. So anyway, so he's already at 12 learned about sex, torture, murder, and by family members, nonetheless. So when Richard was only 13 years old, Miguel and his girlfriend, y'all remember Miguel was the uncle, they were fighting, and they fought in front of Richard, and Miguel shoots his girlfriend in her face, and he kills her.
Yeah, right in front of Richard. Like, he witnesses the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, seriously, I feel like at this point, he's only 13 and he has seen and he has witnessed some things that some of us have never and will never experience in our lifetime. I mean, so I feel like all of this is to blame for who he became, for what he did. It's like he didn't have a chance in the world at this point. How do you feel about that, Echo?
I mean, I would agree. Like, lots of opinions I've read is saying that he wasn't like a born evil. Like, it was kind of like this concoction where he was kind of like made to this way,
Yeah.
you know. And you do kind of feel for him with his childhood. Like, it doesn't excuse anything that he did, but
Right. Yeah, there is
disturbing.
definitely no excusing whatsoever. But yeah, it's definitely like the perfect concoction for him. So Richard started committing burglaries and thefts at the age of 13. He would canvass neighborhoods and pick houses that he liked, and he would just go in and take what he wanted. And then he goes to LA to visit his oldest brother, Ruben, who was also into petty theft, and he showed Ramirez how to break into homes. And then, ready?
Wait,
Ruben also introduces him to porn.
is this the brother-in-law that's the peeping Tom, or is that somebody else in his life?
Well, Ruben is his brother.
Okay, so he also has a brother-in-law that's a peeping Tom that takes him on adventures at night, like peeping. I don't know if you missed that. So like,
I must have missed that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of terrible
great influences in his
life. Yeah.
That is so crazy. So okay, so then I'm just thinking like everything that's being poured into his brain. So then he goes back to El Paso and he enrolls in high school, but he's not very successful. And at age 15, 16, he starts having sex with sex workers. And so, wow. I mean, he's already on this. I mean, well, hell, I guess he's been on the streets. I mean, and I didn't see anywhere like where the parents were at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how the parents, why they just let him run willy-nilly, just doing whatever. I don't understand that. So Ramirez gets a job at the Holiday Inn and he gets fired because he enters a room and he tries to sexually assault a woman who he thought was by herself. But her husband comes in and beats the crap out of him. And so the couple is from out of state and no charges were ever filed against Ramirez. So I thought they didn't press charges because they didn't want to mess with it. Had they pressed charges, I feel like maybe possibly, of course, this was back in the 80s. Would this have changed anything?
Well, I read another viewpoint that it said that there were charges brought, but that the couple didn't come back to the state to testify against him. And so that's how so I don't know which version it is, but so that could be it.
Yeah.
But there's all these little like loopholes that he gets through to get further along in his crime spree.
Oh, I know. There was, well, we'll get to it. Hold on, because my brain's like, let me just jump to this. Yeah, there's shift to it. So anyway, there's a few things to note. At 18 years old, Ramirez moves to LA, and I'll show you a picture of what he looked like. He had horrible teeth. He had bad breath. He had terrible oral hygiene, and his diet consisted of candy and Coke. And so here's a picture of what he looked like, because man, this picture is forever ingrained in your head. Look at his teeth. Because everybody thought that he'd filed his teeth. I don't know if you saw that, but I'm like, no, it was just his bad hygiene that his teeth look like this. And it'll get into it.
Scary.
Yeah. Joanne says it was instilled in him by his family dynamics at a young age. Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I just want to know where the discipline came in. I guess he didn't have any. Yes, Priscilla, Richard Ramirez. And he was actually born what was that? I think I had his name in here somewhere. Maybe I don't. I think I just put it
Right.
in our promo. It was like Ricardo something or other.
He
Anyway.
has 2 middle names.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got lots of them. It's a mouthful of names. Okay. So another thing too is at this age he was also into heavy into Satan worshiping, and he also meets an infamous Satan worshiper. So here's another picture of Richard with his pentagram. This is actually in court, but my person is getting ahead of himself. Showing all these pictures. So anyway, his sister, he has a sister named Ruth, and she goes to LA and she tries to get him to come home, and he tells her no thanks, that he's good and he's protected by Satan and nothing will happen to him. So June 28th, 1984, he commits his first murder at the age of 24. He enters an open window and he stabs 79-year-old Jenny, and he has sex with her corpse. Okay. So here's something very special about Richard. He's very indiscriminate about who he molests, rapes, assaults. I mean, everybody is fair game. Men, women, children, no one is immune to Richard Ramirez. So, and that was his first one. And I want to say I read somewhere, and maybe Echo, you can correct me if I'm wrong, which I might be. I think he was pegged with another murder prior to all these that he's been accused of, right? Did you remember reading
Yeah,
anything
I
like
think
that?
there was one that involved a child or something after the fact, or maybe it didn't. But yeah, I remember there was actually one more they brought with DNA evidence that he didn't admit to, but that was like after everything
Right.
had already happened.
Yeah, I thought it was. So anyway, but originally they were saying that this was the first murder. So Jamie said back here, his brain wouldn't switch over until around 26 to his frontal lobe. Amygdala is the emotional part of our brain. That's why teens and youngins are challenging. And yeah, that's true. And so Jamie says sugar in high doses over high periods of time eat at our brains too, causes memory loss. Mixed with head trauma doesn't equal good things. Yeah, for sure. Limit your sugar intake, people. It's a little PSA of
I've
mine.
read a book that like sugar really does have like the same effects as like drugs on people, especially kids. So it's very interesting.
Wow. And it's scary, right? Sugars. I mean, because sugar is in every single thing that we consume. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So anyway, okay, off that soapbox. So then he abducts a 6-year-old girl from a bus stop. He sexually abuses her, but he does not murder her. He drops her off. 2 weeks later, he abducts a 9-year-old and he rapes her. He doesn't kill her either, and instead drops her off close to her house. So here we go, 6 and 9-year-old. Okay, we went from a 79-year-old to children. And March 1985, Maria Hernandez almost becomes his next victim. So he just spots her and says, "Man, she's gorgeous," and he follows her home. Another PSA: women, be aware of your surroundings. Get off your phone. Quit doing your makeup in your car. Be aware, and don't get off if someone is following you. Do not go home. I mean, just don't do it. Anyway, so he follows her. The garage door is going down, and so he's able to get in there. So he points the gun and he shoots at her. So she tries to goes up defensively, and the keys that she has in her hand stop the bullet. And she's quick thinking. She drops on the floor and pretends that she's dead, which is great, right? And in a couple of things that I saw, so he goes into the house thinking that she's dead, and her roommate is in there. So the roommate is hiding, comes out prematurely, and then gets shot and killed.
Yeah, I
And
think what I read is that she like popped over a counter, he shoots, and then she like popped back up or something, and he shoots again. So like the second shot killed her.
Oh, it was a second shot. Oh my gosh.
I think so, but
And then so Maria, instead of running off to go call the police, she comes up to the front door and he meets her. She's like, "Don't kill me." And he runs off. And I'm like, Maria,
what is
I'm
wrong
like,
with you?
"What is wrong with you?" I'm like, she's like stressing me out because I'm like, what are you thinking? So anyway, Maria is able to give a good description of Richard. Obviously because she survives, but man, and I don't know, Maria, I feel like she got really lucky that he didn't shoot her again. So the next day, you ready for this one? He sees another beautiful young woman named Veronica Yu, and she is aware that she is being followed. Stay tuned for this, PSA women. I'm glad that she was aware, but you know what she did? She stops, pulls over, and lets him go by. Then she proceeds to follow him. Okay, so Ramirez is like, oh, yeah? He stops, gets out of the car, and she's like, why are you following me? He tries to pull her out of the car. They struggle, and he shoots her. There's 2 people that are witness to this. So she doesn't die instantly. They actually call the police, ambulance gets her. She dies on the way to the hospital. Okay, women, aware of your surroundings. Do not pull over. Do not confront the SOB, okay? I mean, there's just so many things here. Veronica, she could have probably still been alive had she not made that crucial mistake. Anyway, yes, Sean, knives are going to be involved as well with this guy. So let's move on to March the 26th. He breaks into Vincent and Maxine's house, and he kills Vincent, shoots him in the head, and he ties Maxine up, and he goes around and he's looking for things to steal. Maxine unties herself, and she gets a shotgun from under the bed. And the sad part is she does not realize that the shotgun
It's not loaded.
is not loaded. Vincent had unloaded it because the grandkids were over, which is great. And he forgot to reload it. So when she goes to shoot him, of course, there's nothing in there. He, in turn, shoots her, beats her, attempts to cut her heart out, but because he can't get through the rib cage, you know what? Next best thing, he cuts her eyes out.
He like gouges them out. Like, I guess it just really pissed him off. So he's
super livid.
It was super gory.
And there was one thing that says they never found the eyes, but I read another thing too that said that he put them in a jewelry box. So I'm not
I read
sure.
that too. So I don't know.
So not sure whether they were found or not. Anyway,
either way, it's really messed up.
Either way, it is awful. It is awful, people. So he also tries to rape her, but he's not able to get aroused. So he gets angrier. I mean, he's got levels of anger. So he stabs her multiple times. I mean, it's a bit of an overkill. No pun intended. Maybe it was intended. And he leaves a footprint. Okay. So one detective that's working this case in this particular town of Whittier thinks that it might be linked to a murder in 84. But most don't agree with him. Like, they don't kind of give him the time of day. They're like, oh, that's just a hunch. You know, we're not going to go on your hunch. Okay. So you guys know that technology was not readily available back in the 80s. So, I mean, why wouldn't you check out the hunch? Like, why wouldn't you pursue it even though no one believed you? Okay, whatevs, not a detective. I don't know what they were thinking, blah, blah, blah. So let's go to April. So Ramirez makes his way to the Doy's home, and in there is Lillian and William. Lillian has suffered from a stroke and she's in a wheelchair. So William tries to grab a gun, but Ramirez shoots him first. And he ties Lillian up. Oh, here's Joanne's PSA. And lock your damn doors in your vehicle while driving. I mean, honestly, most vehicles now do lock. Why don't you get in your car, make sure you lock your doors, and don't just sit there in the Walmart parking lot or United parking lot or wherever parking lot. Just lock your doors, people. So anyway, okay, back to what I was saying. So he ties Lillian up, and he goes and looks for things to steal. William, oh, excuse me. I don't know where that's coming from. My phone is on silent. I apologize. So William tries to grab a gun, but he's shot before he can shoot Ramirez. He ties Lillian up. He's looking for things to steal. William attempts to get up, and he beats him again. And Ramirez says that he's so hyped up doing this crime, and he rapes Lillian. Okay, remember, Lillian's in a wheelchair, and she suffered a stroke, and here he is, and he rapes her. Somehow, William is still not dead, and he finds his strength and he's able to call 911. And he does die the next day, unfortunately. So, are you ready? At this point, we're averaging a murder and attack about once a month. In May, he finds his next target. Mabel Bell, who is 81, and her sister Nettie Lang, who is handicapped as well. This neighborhood was one of those where no one locked their door, their front door, back door, whatever door. No one locked it. And that's exactly where he comes through, front door. He grabs a hammer. Y'all, this crime scene was super, super like one of the worst that had been witnessed, okay? He grabs a hammer, beats them both upside the head with it. He then shocks Nettie with like he purposely pulls back these wires to shock her. And then he draws a pentagram on her and he rapes Nettie. Okay, I have to tell you this, unfortunately, because this is just amazing to me. So they're elderly, obviously. There's brain matter because he's beat them so bad. Y'all, Nettie somehow survives this. And then he grabs a Coke and a banana and he goes on his day. Like, no remorse whatsoever. I mean, okay. Yeah, that one was really hard.
I know. I think and because he just doesn't have an MO, I think it made it harder for them to like realize that this is the same person doing this to all these people. Like, it's not somebody targeting a certain genre, like, a certain type of person.
Right.
So,
because if you look at most serial killers, let's go, but Ted Bundy, if you look at all the women that he raped and stuff and killed, like they all looked alike. I mean, they all had the same, but this one, like you said, Echo, he didn't. It was, everybody was free game for him.
Yeah.
And Jamie also had a PSA. Yes, and the doors don't lock until you put the car in drive, start the car, and manually lock them. Yes, women, get it together. Women and men. No one is, again, no, for him, he didn't care who you were. He was going to do it anyway. Okay, let's see. So another note, this is something that Richard was quoted to say, that he was only 97, 98% evil. And he would even say that we are all evil. And, I'm not good with percentages, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this fool is 100% evil. I mean, it's bad enough that you do the things that you do to regular people, but I can't imagine raping handicapped people, raping elderly people. I mean, that's like a whole new low for anybody, honestly. Cause I mean, I think he was like, I don't know what the mental name is, but you elevate him like a 0.1, 0.2. Cause dude, I mean, when I was, of course I read everything graphic about it. It's just like, man. So anyway, in the background, detectives have been collecting these Avia shoe prints, and in the documentary on Netflix, this is what's so upsetting, is that there's some. Oh, I guess there's like someone that has like a connection to this reporter. So they tell this reporter about this Avia shoe, and she runs with the story. Like, it pisses me off, like during this series, that she ran off and I want to say, Echo, and remind me, maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but didn't he get rid of those shoes at some point? I mean, he still murdered a lot of people, but
I've heard two different stories. One was that the mayor told the public, and another was that the reporter did about these details that they hadn't been released to the public. About the shoe and stuff. And then this one thing I read said that he just immediately went and like he saw that, and so he, of course, what's the first thing he does? He just gets rid of his shoes because
and that's what I'm like, okay, so like media, I mean, yeah, I get it, but man, when you're giving away clues to a potential somebody or other, I wanted to punch her in the face. That's how mad I was. I was so mad. But anyway, okay, so in June, he finds another house and he crawls through the window, and he had checked all the windows, and this window, Joanne, you are right, sicko. Like, I don't even know. I don't have the words to describe this guy. Yeah, I agree, Sean. He's 10,000% evil for sure. And let's see, Jamie says, sounds like his brain didn't switch to his frontal lobe. Honestly, how old is he by now? So he's
24, right? When he did
24.
his
Yeah.
like
He's
24, 25.
24. He said, when were the majority of his murders done? So this happened from 84 to 85. These sounds like crimes of emotion. Hold on. I
Yeah,
accidentally
so
put
he
that.
was 24, 25.
So yeah,
What he
so
was
he
saying.
starts June 28th of 84, and then he stops in 85. And let's see, these sounds like crimes of emotion, hammer and brain matter, then rape. These things are next to each other on the emotional spectrum. Remember, there's 4 primary: emptiness, anger, happy, fear, and sadness. I don't know. I mean, it I Jamie, I don't know. I wish I knew what, you know, how to explain him, because I think he's like beyond science. He said, "Oh, so it actually no, he hasn't switched over, not at this point." But okay, so let me go back to this. So he what does Renee say? The crazy thing, only one of the shoes that
Oh
he wore
yeah.
was sold in California. He got that one pair. Yes, I know they were able to
They try
narrow
to
it
track it
down.
down, yeah. But I
Yeah.
don't think they could find out who exactly bought them, or maybe they did. But they could track out down that size to California, which was crazy that they could do that.
Yeah, I thought that was like, man, that's not bad, for the technology that they were able to do that. So anyway, so in June he finds another house and he crawls through the one window that wasn't locked. And this house belongs to a sheriff's deputy. And Ramirez hears a woman call out and says, "Hey, are you opening the window? This spooks Richard," and he leaves. And he continues to look for other houses to break into, but he has no luck. He does leave another Avia footprint, and that same night, he does attempt to kidnap another girl, but he wasn't successful. So that night was a bust, because that same night, he gets pulled over. And you're like, all right, this is when this fool is about to get popped. The officer runs his plates, and while he's doing that, Ramirez draws a pentagram on the car and he makes a run for it. The officer isn't able to catch him. Ramirez left his wallet behind, and it contained a $100 bill and a dental appointment card. Finally, he's going to be seen about these dental issues. So now they have a clue. They have a name, because it does have his name on it, and they have the dentist information that he's going to go see. So
But they
anyway.
did not get that clue right away because it took them, like, the car got impounded. And so it took, I guess part of the problem was that there were multiple jurisdictions and they
Mhm.
wouldn't really work together. And so, these two detectives were trying to get access to that car, and it took, I don't know how long it took them to actually be able to get to it. And
Right.
most of, like, anything viable was gone. Like, the sun had already been on the car for like weeks or whatever, and they found that dentist card inside.
Yeah, it's one of those, seriously, where it was kind of frustrating, because they're going along and they're talking about it, but yet no, they're not sharing any information. And so they bring in 2 detectives that had worked on the Hillside Strangler case, and so they were super popular in the media for that case, and they absolutely hated to be interviewed um while this was happening. And on that Netflix series, one of the wives is like, "I'm leaving." Like, she did not feel comfortable obviously, I mean, who felt comfortable? She did not feel comfortable with him on the loose and her husband gone all the time, because they were called out constantly with this guy, and they're working these crazy hours to try to catch him. So anyway, his next victim, Patty Higgins, she was 28 years old, and she was found beaten and almost decapitated, and she had been sodomized. And they didn't immediately tie it to Ramirez, but assumed that she had to have been a victim based on his MO about, the way he did bodies and stuff. So, oh my gosh, July 2nd, he finds 75-year-old Marie Louise, and she's sleeping, and he hits her repeatedly with a lamp, and then he chokes her. He also stabs her repeatedly and steals some things, and he goes on his merry way. I mean, these people, never knew it was coming. So with this case, he left another Avia shoe print, and it turns out that we know, like we said earlier, that the Avia was not a popular shoe, and there was only like 5 or 6 in a size 11 that had been sold. So He is actually another thing too. Eric, do you mind showing the map real quick? So he hits this Arcadia area um, a couple of, actually 3 times. He really liked this area. Of course, you can't see it, but real quick, let me mention this map right here. So this map right here is the reds are all where he was. And Renee, who's part of our T-Suds family with her show that she just did, she's in the purple dot. So she was telling me that they lived in this area when all of this was happening. So naturally they had a fear, because some of the victims were Renee's age. So man, I felt like I would have like left immediately, especially since they hadn't caught him. But so Renee, I thank you so much for sharing that. And Renee has a show. Pop that in the comments, Renee, because Echo, you might like hers. It's Ghosts, Wine, and Spirits. She talks about ghosts and wine and spirits. So, okay, so this whatchamacallit, this map is better. So if you look over number 7, that's Arcadia. And so that's where these next people take place. So this is the Bennett family that he attacks, and he chooses a 16-year-old girl, and he beats her with a tire iron, and he tries to choke her with a phone cord. The cord tries to spark and it spooks him. He would say later, after he was arrested, that he felt that Jesus Christ stepped in and saved this girl. And, for a Satanist to say something like that, you're just kind of wondering what exactly it was, because, because of the spark that made you think that Jesus stepped in. I'm not really sure. I didn't go into much more detail than that, but they did find another Avia shoot print at this point. So in the interest of time, from July to August, he would attack 5 more people. And so if you look over here, so Whitney Bennett, July the 5th, July 7th was Joyce, and she was beaten to death in Monterey Park. Sophie Dickman, she was raped and sodomized in Monterey Park, and she survived. It's amazing how many people survived this. Like I'm just curious how these people did with the rest of their lives, because, he would force them to do bad things to him. I can't imagine. They said, how bad he stunk. That's all I kept thinking. Every time I heard that he stunk, I just would get nauseous.
I think, and then he told a couple of his victims to like swear on Satan that they wouldn't scream and stuff, instead of he would have them swear on Satan.
Yes.
Creepy.
Yeah, that's awful. I can't imagine maybe you're possibly your last words and you're over here swearing on Satan because you want to live. But anyway, I can't pronounce what the other name, but July 20th, son and wife were both sodomized. Okay, again, nobody is immune to him. August the 8th, Elias Abawarth was shot in the Diamond Bar. And then August the 24th in 85, Bill Carnes, he's shot 3 times in the head, and he did survive. So he's eventually captured. Okay. August the 31st, 1985, shoppers at a liquor store. He's coming back from El Paso, I believe. He'd gone to visit somebody. And so he's walking by, and shoppers see him pick up a newspaper, and he didn't like them. Oh, yes. Yeah. One of his victims does say, like, she can't even give a good description of him because she just looked him in the eyes. She did not look at him she just did not want to look away at all. But anyway, so shoppers at a liquor store see him pick up a newspaper, and he looks at the photo, and he runs into this neighborhood, and he attempts to carjack Angie De La Torre, and she fights back. I mean, yes, a woman. Yes, I appreciate her being able to take some self-defense classes, guys, so you guys can learn how to fight back. But anyway, so she fights back, and her 85-year-old, this guy's a hero, 85-year-old neighbor runs out. His name's Jose something. And Ramirez threatens to shoot him if he gets closer. That didn't scare this little 85-year-old Jose. He didn't see a gun, and he goes over there and he pulls Ramirez out of the car, and onlookers help restrain him. And Angie's husband comes out, and he hits him with some barbecue utensil that he had. And meanwhile, everybody is like screaming El Matador, which means the killer. And he runs off. And this hero, which I have a picture of him, he's with his family. So I want to say it might be the last slide, Eric. They hit him with a metal bar, and they continue to beat him, actually. So here's
Oh, the
our
cops
hero
come
right here. Yeah. Props to the homicide detective, but let's not forget this guy who beat him with the metal stick and their neighbors that helped catch Richard Ramirez. True MVP right here. For real. For this guy needs the keys to the city or something. But anyway, so they're beating him, and had the police not showed up when they did, they'd have killed him. Like, they were going out for street justice is what these people were doing. So he is found guilty in 1989. So it took 4 years to go to court. I don't understand that. I don't. I'm like, I mean, we need what is it? Carpool lane, expressway, something to get this guy out of here. But anyway, that's my opinion, not anybody else's. He's found guilty, 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He's sentenced to death. And as he's passing one of the cameras, he's like, hey, big deal. Death always comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disney. Okay. So I'm going to tell you this, and then we're going to jump back to something else. He dies at the age of 53 of B-cell lymphoma in 2013. I guess this is where the crazy comes in here, okay? He had groupies. He had groupies in court, okay? And women are on camera saying that the reason that they're there is because they wanted to see what he looked like. One of them's like, because I thought he was cute. I think this woman needed to get her ass checked. There was nothing cute about Richard Ramirez. Nothing. There was nothing attractive about this man. One of the reports, look, and then go through I don't know if I put one in there. So one of the things that I read was they would get suits to dress him up that were donated to Goodwill, and some of them were Armani. And I don't know if I have one in here of him wearing like some aviators, and he's just
the one with the sunglasses. He almost looks like a rock star or something in court with his the way that he looks.
Yeah, he's like hamming it up in there. I mean, he's just like doing all the sexy things, and all these women are dropping panties left and right. It's unreal to me.
And they would send him pictures, like in prison or jail or whatever. They would just send him like pictures of them like scantily clothed or topless. I don't know if you had any of those pictures, but it was just really crazy.
Yes.
What these ladies would do.
I'm like, seriously, this is, yes, like Charles Manson groupies. Yes.
I mean, someone described him like even after his court date or whatever, when he got sentenced, that they were like lining the street. These groupies were. And I'm baffled by it.
Yeah, me too. And so this little, this is his wife. He goes on to, and I'm going to tell you about her in just a minute. Okay. And this is another one that was in court, just so excited to see the star. But anyway, so women were on camera saying that they wanted to see him. One reporter said that the entire back row was filled with goth girls wearing black leather dresses, black hair. Some women, are y'all ready for this? They requested his semen because they wanted to have his baby. I'm like, what the actual fuck is going on here? Like,
I didn't
what?
know about that. Wow.
Yes, they requested it. And he would look back and he would blow kisses. Doreen would take it to the extreme. She would go on to marry Richard. And then that's not the cutesy. It isn't in there. No, it doesn't. It doesn't, people. A juror, okay, fell in love with him during the trial. Okay? Cindy Hayden, who was a backup juror, was called in.
A juror? I didn't know that she was a juror. Wow.
Yes. Jamie says, oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say they got tattoos. No. A tattoo would have been like nothing. Like you hate him compared to how much I love him. Exactly, Joanne. Exactly. When I read that, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Oh my gosh. Anyway, let me get back on this. Cindy Hayden, who was the backup juror, she was called in when another juror was dismissed, and she was saddened when she wasn't able to help him to be found not guilty. She went to visit him in prison and even started making appearances on TV, claiming his innocence, saying he was possessed by the devil and that he didn't deserve to be put to death. And there was one thing that I read, and I want to say that it was Doreen. She ended up divorcing him when she found out that he had raped a child. Like, you can murder grandmas and grandpas, and you can murder regular women, but you touched a child, and I draw the line there. Anyway, I think
Yeah, so
Doreen.
I think there was some case that didn't come to the light till after he was
Yes.
sentenced and she married him. And then once she found out that he had raped and done things to kids, then that was where she drew the line. But like the serial killer thing, that was totally cool. But
Yes, Ermagerd. I mean, honestly, Rachel, that's exactly how I feel about it, because I'm just like, okay, had he been cute, I don't know. But so I looked at this term up, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, guys. But I was looking, this is a phenomenon, okay? It's called, and I'm gonna butcher it, hybristophilia or Bonnie and Clyde syndrome. It's a sexual disorder in which someone is aroused by wrongdoing. And all of these women that flocked suffer from, I'm just gonna say Bonnie and Clyde syndrome, because I just can't imagine knowing, and he admitted to all of these crimes and thinking, man, I still love him. Like, he's
and
innocent.
and he wasn't even remorseful about it at all. And
No.
like he'd make jokes or whatever. And yeah,
Yeah. So that Cindy Hayden, there was like a quote in there that was saying, like, that was his job. Like, I have a job, but his job was murdering people. There's plenty of other jobs, ma'am, that people can do. I can't imagine trying to justify, and then you as a family member, one that suffered this, or that, victim, family member, anything. Imagine these crazy women defending him. It's unreal, honestly.
And I think his first wife, her family, like basically just, let her go, or because of her choice to be with him, and she was fine with that. Like it was basically saying that.
Yeah, that old Cindy Hayden, she introduced her
Yeah.
parents to him.
Oh man.
Yeah, like took them to jail to introduce them to them. And hi, Minnie, good morning. Yeah, she said extreme evil. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And maybe, and I don't know about, I can't think of any right now, but I don't think that the ones that I've discussed have had any have been Satan worshipers. I don't think that they have been, but maybe this is why he was the way he was. Maybe, made the crimes more gruesome because he was a Satan worshiper. But oh my gosh. And then what is Joanne saying? I hope you become somebody's bitch if you went to the pen, but then again, that might have given, probably would have loved it. Probably was like, bring it on, because he wasn't going to be able to kill again. So, well, and then I don't know, like in death row, if you actually have access to other people. I don't know.
Well, he was engaged again when he died, to like, I think he was like 50 something when he died. And it said he was
53.
engaged to like a 23-year-old writer. I can't remember her name, but so
She was
somehow.
oh my gosh. Okay. So Eric, will you pull up the picture? Cause I have another one, and this, and I can't, dang it. I think her name was Christy Lee. She's the blonde. And that's another
Yeah, I
one
think
that,
it's Christy. Yeah.
yeah. And that's another one that was like totally in love with him. Let me see. Okay. Not that one. It's the blonde. Okay. So Renee saying that he was in isolation. Oh, maybe I didn't put her picture in there. That's Doreen, and that's just another onlooker there. But there's another one I thought that I'd put in there. Let me see. Let me see. Hold on. Maybe I didn't.
But
But
they also
can you
said
see that
because
one?
of, oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, and some of these women, like, I mean, they're not bad looking. I I don't know, that Bonnie and Clyde.
If you watch the Netflix show, it like shows you all these images of the people, like it real examples of the kind of pictures he was getting in prison, um, from these women. It was just
Oh,
crazy.
yes, yes, yes. So, again, the Netflix series is 4 parts. She said, I think shower time all naked. Bring it on." What? Joanne, break that down for me. I'm not sure what you're saying. But Jamie said, "Ew, Joanne." Cochina. But anyway, so I'm blown away at this one. I mean, just because of everything that he did and how many victims and how he didn't have an MO. And I'm glad he was off the streets when he was, because yikes.
Oh,
Anyway.
you didn't touch on how they missed him at the dentist office, because they went to the dentist office on that card, the detectives, and they went there to try to find him. But the guy was like, "Oh, he had an infection. He'll be back." And they had staked out that place for like weeks, and he never came back. And then the dentist was like, "Why don't you install an alarm so when he comes in, I can push the alarm and you guys will know and come get him." And
Uh-huh.
then they did that, and the alarm failed. Like, so when he
Mm.
came back to get his dentist appointment for his tooth that was infected, it didn't work. And so that was like another chance they had where he escaped, and then he killed more people. It was
Okay.
crazy.
I'm not, you know what? I guess I totally missed that. I must have got up at that point. But thank you for pointing that out, Echo. And Renee, great. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. And I meant to put this down in my notes and I forgot. So there's another on Netflix, there's a series. I think it's a 3-part series. It's the Cecil Hotel. And this story is talking about everything that happened there. But there's one case in particular, and they do bring up, thank you, Renee, that Richard was actually at the Cecil Hotel. And one of the things that they mention about him is that he would come in just all bloodied up, like just clothes all bloodied, and he would walk up the stairs or go up the elevator, whatever, in his underwear because he'd taken off his clothes.
And nobody's just like,
And
was like,
nobody
"What's
said, because the Cecil Hotel, y'all need to watch that one. It was just it was filled with
bizarre
all,
people," I guess.
yes, because it's right on Skid Row. So it's not like anything was, that shocking. And obviously, if you didn't report it, I mean, yeah, no, Cecil Hotel is its own that's a whole nother story.
I have to
And
watch it.
yes, you do, because it's the case on that Cecil Hotel. I honestly, this is my opinion, and spoiler alert, cover your ears if you haven't watched it. I feel like I got closure with that case that they show on the Cecil Hotel, because this whole time I really thought it was very paranormal, but the way they laid it out and explained this disappearance of this young girl, I'm like, okay, thank you for that. I now have closure, because I really thought that it was going to be something paranormal, but it was not. Again, if you haven't watched it, watch it and let me know if you want to talk about it. Renee, are we talking about that one? I can't remember. Renee and I are doing a crossover show on some now. Renee wasn't on Richard, was it? Now I'm like second guessing myself. Wait a second. But anyway, I was going to tell y'all something else. Oh, side note. So, I actually, a couple of years ago, I sent both of my kids down to volunteer at Skid Row. I wanted them to see how people lived and the choices that they make. Of course, now there are some that have mental health issues and stuff like that, but I wanted them to volunteer and see how things could possibly be. Anyway, I said, nobody has electronics. They're homeless. My kid calls me, I kid you not, and he's like, "Mom, some of these homeless people have like 3 devices." I'm like, "Well, shit, that's not where I wanted to go with that." But anyway, so I asked him, I'm like, "Do you ever remember seeing the Cecil Hotel? I mean, you were right there." And he's like, "Mom, I didn't even look up." He's like, "There's just so many things on the streets." So anyway, and Renee said, "It's a portal for evil. You have to study the architecture." Oh, interesting. Interesting. Joanne says they shower together from what I know. So yeah, perfect time. And I'm no cochina, just saying that that's what happens. Joanne, I think the way we read that, it might have been, or the way might have been why he said cochina. But so in isolation, they shower together? That's interesting.
Oh, something else interesting was whenever they actually caught him and they were going to put him in a cell, they told him they actually gave him the Hillside Stranglers cell, like thinking that he would get excited about that and then like be more likely to tell them,
Uh-huh.
admit to his whatever he had done.
Huh. And
So
what was that? Did that result in anything?
I can't remember, but that was in the Netflix show too. You must
Oh,
have
was
stepped
it?
away for you must have
I
took a
must
little
have.
break.
How long was I gone? No, and then another thing too, he was actually in jail at the same time that Sean Penn was in jail, and Sean wrote something that said he asked him for his autograph. That what's his face asked him for an autograph, and then there was another famous person in there. He's so famous, I don't remember his name and couldn't tell you what he'd come on. But he said this guy wrote in his memoir that with talking about Richard Ramirez that Richard would shake the gel thingy or whatever and was telling him that he was going to kill him. But so he didn't ask for his autograph. So
Scary.
anyway, Echo, I have enjoyed our time together so much. Thank you so much for running the family out to the park and hopping on here with me. When are you going to be back? When are you coming
I
back
don't
to
know.
see us? It's going to
Just
be a while.
give me some homework and I'll come back and talk about true crime whenever.
Okay, cool.
I'll
I
fill
love
in
it.
anytime.
Oh, I appreciate it. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, hit some hearts, share it on your page. And if you want, you know that I'm always looking for guests. I'm always looking for topics, anything new. Please throw it at me. Y'all tune into Renee's show. She's going to be on Fridays at 9:00. And I think that's everything. Renee, Echo, don't hop off just yet. Good morning, Rod. Catch us on the replay because we're about to hop off. And oh, maybe you were watching. Enjoy the show as always. Thanks, Rod. I appreciate you. Hope you're doing awesome. Echo, don't hop off. But everybody else, let's remember, let's keep talking sheet. Y'all have a good one.